A millionaire's world shattered when doctors told him his identical triplets had only 1 week left to live. No cure, no hope. But then the new maid, dismissed as just a servant, did something no doctor dared. What she gave the boys shocked the father and changed everything. You won't believe how this story ends. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments what time is it and where are you watching from. Let's start. The heavy door closed with a dull thud. Moments later, the sound of polished shoes packing echoed in the mansion's vast hallway. Darius Cole, millionaire businessman, suit perfectly pressed, tie choke in his neck, dragged his hands across his face. He had just walked the doctor out. The words still rang in his ears like a curse. 1 week. If they don't respond, you should prepare yourself. There is nothing more we can do. Darius turned back toward the parlor, his jaw tight. His 3 sons sat together on the rug, identical in every way, their shaved heads gleaming under the chandelier's glow, their yellow pajamas too bright against their pale, tired faces. Triplets, his only children. They should have been his pride, his legacy. Instead, they stared blankly at the floor, eyes lifeless, lips pressed shut. They weren't always like this. A rare genetic illness had struck them all at once, something no amount of money could erase. At first, it looked like fatigue. Then came the fevers, the weakness. They stopped laughing. Then, worst of all, they stopped eating. Specialist after specialist flew in Europe, America, even Tokyo, but every one of them left shaking their heads. Darius slammed his fist against the doorframe. Billions in my account, and I can't even buy them another month. His voice cracked. He couldn't let them see him break, not his sons, but his body betrayed him. His shoulders hunched. His hands trembled. Behind him, footsteps approached, softer, lighter. The new maid, Altha, appeared. Blue uniform pressed, pink trim, neat, colorful scarf knotted around her head. She had only been hired 2 weeks earlier. He didn't know much about her, didn't care. To him, she was just another hand in the house, someone to polish silver and scrub marble. But now she stood watching the boys with something he hadn't seen from anyone else in weeks. Intent, focused concern. They haven't touched a thing all day, Altha said softly, nodding at the untouched tray of food on the table. Not even water. Don't tell me what I already know, Darius snapped, voice sharp like a whip. His nerves were shredded raw. Altha didn't flinch. You're their father. You've got to see what's happening to them. It's not just sickness. They've given up. Darius turned on her, eyes blazing. And what do you want me to do? Dance for them. I've brought the best men money can buy. Do you think some maid from the street can outsmart the doctors? Her jaw tightened, but she didn't back down. Doctors treat the body. Who treats the soul? The words hung in the air. Darius sneered, turned away. He didn't want to hear this, but the truth sat heavy in the silence. The boys weren't dying just because of illness. They were fatting because they saw no reason to keep fighting. Altha slipped away without another word. Hours later, the smell of something sweet drifted through the hall. It was unusual. Warm sugar, vanilla, the faint tang of citrus. Darius frowned. This was not from his imported chef. He followed the scent to the kitchen. There she was, sleeves rolled up, hands dusted with flour, sliding a plate across the counter. On it sat a slice of cake. Vivid layers stacked neatly. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, a rainbow baked into soft sponge. What the hell is this? He demanded. A chance, she said simply. She carried the plate carefully like it was medicine. Children need light color, Hope, Darius scoffed. You think sugar's going to cure them. This isn't some fairy tale. No, she said, her tone sharper now. But maybe it will remind them why they should stay alive long enough for medicine to work. You want them to fight. Give them something to fight for. He wanted to argue to shut her down. But a part of him froze because he remembered the last time his boys had laughed. It was months ago when she first joined, when she clumsily spilled water and pretended to slip, making them giggle for a fleeting second. No doctor had done that. Now she walked into the parlor, holding the plate. The boys' eyes tracked her slowly, curiosity faint but flickering. She knelt on the rug, bringing herself to their level. Look at this, Althea whispered, voice warm, coaxing. A rainbow on a plate. Do you know what a rainbow means? None of the boys answered, their lips stayed pressed tight. It means storms don't last forever. It means light comes back. She set the plate down between them. One bite, just one, let's fight together. The eldest triplet blinked, his throat bobbing as if swallowing something unseen. The middle one shifted almost imperceptibly toward the plate. The youngest pressed his lips tighter, fear or stubbornness locking him in place. From the doorway, Darius stood frozen, his hands gripping his head. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Not the cake any fool could bake, but the way she looked at them like they weren't dying boys, like they were still alive. And for the first time in weeks, the room wasn't just heavy silence. It was waiting. The boys sat frozen, staring at the slice of rainbow cake as though it were some strange object from another world. None of them moved. The silence pressed heavy on the room until Darius let out a bitter laugh from the doorway. "Pathetic," he muttered. "You think a damn cake can undo what's in their blood?" Doctors gave them a week, woman. A week. You don't fight time with flour and sugar. Altha looked up, her eyes fierce. "If you believe they're already gone, then they will be, but I don't." The eldest triplet whispered suddenly, his voice thin, raspy. Why does it have colors?" Altha's face lit up with cautious hope. She leaned closer, speaking softly as though telling a secret. "Because each color stands for something. Red is strength, yellow is joy, green is health, blue is peace. Every bite is a promise you're still alive." The middle boy blinked slowly, his lips trembling. "But it hurts when I eat." Altha reached out, brushing his shoulder gently. "Then just a crumb, just let your tongue taste it, not for me, for you, for your brothers." Darius felt his throat tight. It was the most any of them had spoken in days. He stepped forward, then stopped himself as if afraid his presence would break the fragile thread holding their attention. The youngest shook his head. "The doctor said, we'll die." His little fists clenched in his lap. "We'll die anyway." Altha's voice sharpened. "Listen to me. Doctors don't decide when you stop fighting, you do. Do you want to leave your father here alone, crying over your beds? Or do you want to stand together and show him you're stronger than anyone believes?" The words cut like knives. Darius inhaled sharply, his chest heaving. He wanted to snap at her to silence her boldness, but the sight of his boys, their eyes wide and wet, kept him still. Slowly, the eldest reached out, pinched the tiniest corner of the cake, and put it to his lips. Chewed, his face tightening, then loosening. The sugar melted on his tongue. For the first time in weeks, a spark glimmered in his eyes. The middle boy followed shakily, his fingers trembling. He licked a crumb, then swallowed. He winced, but then his lips parted just slightly, almost a smile. The youngest sat stubborn, tears streaking down his cheeks. "I don't want to die," he whispered. Altha leaned in until her forehead nearly touched his. "Then don't bite this cake, and that's your first promise to live." With a sob, he snatched a crumb and shoved it into his mouth. His brother's eyes widened as if they had just witnessed a miracle. From the doorway, Darius pressed both hands to his head, overwhelmed. What are you doing to them?" His voice shook. "I'm reminding them they're still children," Althea said simply. "Not patients, not corpses, children." Over the next hours, the cake disappeared crumb by crumb. Not much, not enough for doctors to count as progress, but enough to keep the triplets awake, alert. That night, Althea sat with them until their eyes closed in sleep. She sang softly old lullabibus from her childhood. Darius lingered outside, listening. His chest burned with something he hadn't felt in months, hope laced with fear. The following days blurred together. Altha refused to let the boys sink back. She cooked brightly colored soups, cut fruit into shapes, played little games where eating was part of the prize. She brewed teas from herbs she remembered her grandmother using, and above all, she talked stories, jokes, memories. At first, Darius sneered, calling it folk nonsense. But every morning he saw a change. A little more color in their cheeks, a little more energy in their movements. By the fourth day, the eldest managed to stand, gripping Altha's hand. By the sixth day, laughter rang through the halls. Real laughter, the kind Darius thought he'd never hear again. On the seventh day, the day they were supposed to die, the boys were running barefoot across the rug, their yellow pajamas flapping as they chased each other in circles. Their voices echoed alive and bright. Darius stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes wide, his hands trembling. He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Althea leaned against the wall, exhausted but smiling, her colorful scarf slipping as sweat clung to her forehead. The eldest boy ran up to her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Mama," he whispered. Darius staggered back as if the word were a blow. His sons clung to the maid, calling her by the name reserved for the woman who had left them years ago. Tears streamed down his face. For once he didn't care about dignity, about power, about wealth. He walked forward, knelt beside them, and placed a hand on Althea's shoulder. His voice broke. "You saved them." She shook her head, eyes glistening. "No, they saved themselves. I just reminded them how for the first time in his life, Darius Cole bowed his head. Not to an investor, not to a boardroom, but to a maid. And the triplets, alive against all odds, clung tighter to the woman who gave them back their will to live. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like button. Share this video with someone who needs hope today. And comment below. What would you have done if you were in the father's place? And of course, subscribe for more powerful emotional stories every week. Your support keeps these stories alive.